Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today I'm going to I'm going to go over my thoughts on the current state of Era 3. This is something that I've done a few times before, and I'm doing it again now at the request of, I believe it was Max, it's not your full name in my Discord, Max something and something else in my Discord asked me about this, so here we are. Now what I'm going to cover in this video, I'm going to cover, four items. And that's going to be the, I'd say, relationship I have and the understanding I have of the game via conversations with Wargaming. That's the first thing I'll cover. I'll cover the Wiesel, I'll cover the 477, and then I'll cover the pace of Era 3. So those are the four topics that I'm going to cover. I'll timestamp them in the play bar. Yeah, whatever you call that in YouTube. So if you don't want to hear me talk about Wargaming or the Force or the Wiesel or whatever, just skip past it. So go right on ahead. All right, so the first thing, the status I have with Wargaming. Now, one thing I really do appreciate, and I'm going to drop some names here because I really do appreciate these guys, is the transparency, the honesty, and the accessibility and understanding I've had from the folks at Wargaming that I've spoken to. So the lead tank designer, Plague, he's the first guy I'll mention. He has been very open with me about understanding what I'm talking about when I discussed some of the things that irk me about the game. He's been very open with me about things he's testing. He's talked to me about things that are coming. I'm not going to tell you what those things are, guys, so don't even ask. And he's painted a picture for me that says, we've heard you. It paints a picture that says, Wargaming have heard you, they've understood you, and we are actually trying to fix things. We're testing things that are in line with the things that you've suggested. And I really, really appreciate that from Plague. The second one is Bam, lead game designer. He has been tremendous, absolutely tremendous to talk to. I have been able to, it's almost like I can pick up the phone anytime and just talk to him about the game, and he makes time to talk to me, which I think is absolutely amazing. So Bam, I really appreciate the generosity you have with your time and the openness that you have to hearing me, because I know sometimes being in your position, it must feel like all you get from people is complaining. All you get is bitching and moaning. And that must get tiresome. So in this video, I'm going to make an effort to not do that, while also raising some of the concerns I still have. And lastly, Winged Racer has been very gracious in hearing me. I recently got frustrated with something, and I don't normally use expletives, but I did, and I later apologized for my rant, to which he said, don't apologize, it's fine. We need to hear what you think. We need to hear what you really think. So there you have it. Winged is the, community. Oh shit, I've forgotten his title. Sorry. Not community manager. He says it on stream, doesn't he? He's the player. Oh, mate, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But anyway, those are the three guys from Wargaming that I've spoken to who have been it's been wonderful to talk to them, because they put my mind at ease. Because sometimes, like everybody else in the community, I think it's us versus Wargaming. No one in Wargaming listens. No one in Wargaming cares. And this time, talking to these guys reassures me that no, actually, they are listening, they are paying attention, they do care, and they are actually working on things. And the things that they are working on, I think, that's exactly what we need. That's what the thing that you're testing, the thing that you're doing, the thing that you're suggesting, the thing you're talking to me about. Thumbs up. That's exactly what we need. So Wargaming, if you think I'm making all this up, then you can believe what you want. But this is my truth about Wargaming. So there you go. There's my bit about Wargaming, which sets the scene for everything I'm about to say. So this is not a rant at Wargaming. This is going to be a little bit more positive than my previous videos. All right, so we'll talk about the Wiesel now. I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, a RAM change was introduced to the Wiesel, which is good. I do agree with that. Anything to bring the Wiesel in line with other tanks in the game and actually make it make it not overpowered is a good thing. I haven't played Era 3 all that much. The games that I have played, the Wiesel is still as annoying and as toxic as it's always been, because fixing the RAM damage it's a band-aid on the wound. It's not the fix. It is not the, well, it's a fix. It's not the, I hope it's not, this isn't the final version of the Wiesel that we will get, because I think it needs to be adjusted. I don't think any tank should be able to just dominate the way it can and do whatever it wants, however it wants, to whoever it wants, and I completely misjudged the handbrake there. That's my mistake. Whoops. So, yeah, that's my thought on the Wiesel. I've made a video on it separately. I think it needs to be brought in line and made into a similar role as the M50 Ontos in Era 2. It needs to be the hyper sneaky, hyper tiny, can do a lot of damage, but once it's spotted, it's almost game over. That's how it should play. It should play as the super sneaky, super high alpha, but it has to have a vulnerability. And right now, yeah, having RAM damage is a vulnerability, but realistically speaking, if you want to avoid RAM damage, you just don't drive into other tanks. And in the Wiesel, going as fast as you can in that thing, and as nimble as it is, it's not difficult to, you have the entire map. You do not have to drive into the 15 enemy tanks. You really don't need to do that. So yeah, the RAM damage is a fix. I appreciate the fact that Wargaming are listening and are addressing the Wiesel gradually. I hope this is the first of many changes to come to bring it in line. But yeah, it's still toxic in my opinion. It's still overpowered, and it still ruins the game for me. My recent Swedish light tank review, that was one of the games that really tipped me off the edge, because I had a 12k combined game, and this Wiesel just shows up out of nowhere and just destroys my game, and in a fashion that is, well, it's the only tank in the game that you can be chasing, it can do a 180 flip on you, blat you for 1400 and kill you. No other tank in the game can do that, and it's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. So that's my take on the Wiesel. Wargaming still have a little bit of work to do, but I appreciate the fact that they have addressed it they have addressed it. We're heading in the right direction. Alright, so the 477, the high explosive change is good. Don't know where that shot went. The high explosive change to the 477, well, not the 477. Having high explosive in other tanks is better, because you can now do damage to the front of the 477. But I do think that having a premium in the game that can just... having a premium in the game that has no frontal weak spots, I don't think that's a very good thing. I don't think that's a good idea to have in the game. You've got other heavies in the game, well, not heavies, other tanks in the game, such as the, the Mouse, the super heavies in World War II. All of these tanks have great armor, but they have their frontal weak spots, and it's up to the driver and it's up to the person targeting these tanks to learn the weak spots. And that's kind of what I feel is missing from Cold War. That's what is missing from this game mode, and that's why a lot of people that play World War II refuse to play Cold War, because they feel that this is the dumbed down version of the game. This is the version of the game where you can just pull the trigger and do damage. And I would like to see this game mode changed and become more knowledge based, which is what the game is, what it ought to be about. It ought to be about, I penned you because I knew where your weak spot was. It shouldn't be just, I penned you because I can just rock up in front of you, you can't pen me, and I can just blat you anywhere because I've got 900 mil of pen, or I'm firing an ATGM that's got 1000 millimeters of pen, and you've got 1400 alpha, and I can just destroy your game in 2 shots. Now, that's not what the game ought to be about. I feel the game ought to be about knowledge. Like, if you kill me, fine, I haven't got a problem with that, but I want to know that you bested me because you played better. I don't want to be killed because you just faced-hugged me and there wasn't a damn thing I could do, or because you're in a tank that's got ridiculous concealment, it's tiny, can't be seen, and you snuck up behind me and just blatted me for 1400 because you're firing your gold ATGMs. I'm not interested in playing a game like that. I'm just not. And that's why I don't really play Era 3. So there we go. That's the 477. I think it needs a frontal weak spot. I think it needs to be more knowledge-based, this game. Right. The last and final thing I will talk about is the pace of Era 3. Now, so far, you have seen 3 replays. And this video is coming up to... We've just gone over 11 minutes in this video. I have shown you 3 replays in the space of 11 minutes. Not a single game was more than 4 minutes long. And that for me is a problem. Era 3 is just way, way too fast. With the guns that are in this game, with the guns that are in this game mode, you can RBRT people from across the map because they're so accurate. The pen is so high, you do damage. And you're going at 80 kilometers an hour. It is just, pardon my French, it is a shit show. It is an absolute shit show. It's a circus. And that's exactly what I said before in my previous videos. What I would like to see is, again, I'd like to see Era 3 become the pinnacle of this game. I want to see it become the ultimate World of Tanks Modern Armor gaming experience. Because at the end of the day, for those of us that have ground out through World War II, we've got to Tier 10. I want Tier 10 to be the pinnacle. I've got a video coming out on that separately, but we'll address... I addressed that there. We won't talk about that now. In Cold War, you've done the grind. You've done the 1.6 million XP grind to get your Leclerc, or your Abrams, or your Leopard 2A5, or your Charlie 2. That should be what earns you the tanks that are the best to play in the best game mode. It should be the most tactical. It should be the most well thought out. It should be the most knowledgeable. It should be the most carefully played. Right now, you can go back and watch the previous 3 replays. It's just a mass of red on the minimap. The team with the mass of red wins. The team with the mass of green wins. There is no thought. There are no tactics. There's no knowledge. There's nothing involved in that kind of playstyle. Now, I know some people like it, but quite frankly, that is not what this game is about. That's not the game has never been about that. It's from its inception. This has never been a racing game. Never has been. And if you want to go racing around a map in circles, then I suggest you go play, I don't know, whatever racing game you want, MotoGP or Formula 1 or something. I don't know. Go play that game. If you want to race around in circles at high speed, go do that. In World of Tanks, I would like to see Era 3 become the pinnacle gaming experience that this game has to offer. And if that were the case, if Era 3 were the pinnacle of this gaming experience, then a content creator like myself, when I'm faced with a new premium, such as, I don't know, we'll pick the recent one, the Swedish light tank. I can't say the name properly, so I'm not going to butcher it. If I were faced with that premium light tank and it were the pinnacle of the game, I would say, this light tank is a premium. It's come to the pinnacle of the game. It's in the ultimate gaming arena. It's very, very expensive because you are in the ultimate gaming experience within this arena. That demands the price tag. 15,500 gold for the base package. That price is demanded because you are at such a high level of gaming. You're at the knife's edge of this gaming experience. And if you want to have a premium experience, then yeah, fork out the money, because you know, these are the top dogs. These are the big boys. This is where the heat is. And if you want to handle the heat, you've got to be prepared to step into that arena and compete with the best that there is in this game. The reason I struggle to promote tanks that are at this at this level of the game is because the prices are astronomical for a gaming experience that really is, I hate to say it, but it's childish. It's quite an immature gaming experience. It's not a mature, yeah, it's not a mature gaming experience. I'll put it that way. And that is why these massively high price tags just don't make any sense, because it's like, well, why would I pay that much for an experience that is completely lackluster and just boring? You know, I'm not really interested in games that last less than 4 minutes. I'm not paying £51 for a gaming experience that lasts, yeah, that long. It's just not worth it. It could be worth it. It absolutely could be worth it, in my opinion. But we are just not there yet. We're not there yet. And what I think needs to happen is Era 3 needs to slow down. It really needs to slow down. I've talked about this at length previously. One of the things I mentioned was that these main battle tanks, yes, they can theoretically do 80 kilometers an hour on the road. But you take them off-road, they're not doing 80 kilometers an hour. You take them off-road, they are not snapping shots full speed at targets that are 1,000 meters away. They're just not. You could, in theory, do that, but you can't guarantee hitting the target. So what I think needs to happen is the tanks need to slow way down when they're off-road, and the gun accuracy needs to be nerfed when you are moving very quickly. Fine, have the ability to pull the trigger at high speed, but you're not going to hit anything. I do not want to see RBRT shots from Abrams smacking something 800 meters away. It's just absurd. It is absurd, and that is one of the reasons why I just don't play Era 3. I'm sticking to Era 1, to be honest, because even Era 2 is starting to turn a little bit like Era 3. It's just too YOLO-y. The game is becoming too YOLO-y in Cold War. Era 1, Era 2 and Era 3 with the German lights. It's heading the same way, Wargaming. Era 2 is heading the same way Era 3 is, and if you're not careful, you're going to start losing people because they're going to be disinterested. And Era 1, for me, is still the best gaming experience in Cold War. I still have clutch games in Era 1. Can't say the same for Era 2 or Era 3. So there you go, guys. That is, well, those are my thoughts on the state of Era 3 right now. I've tried to make this as positive as possible because I know the guys at Wargaming that I talk to are acutely aware of where I stand and where the community stands. So I don't want them to feel like I'm just bashing them on the head with a club. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just reiterating some of the things that they already know and trying to bring in some new perspectives, new angles on things that they might not know. So there you go. That is all I have to say for this one, guys. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like, if not a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.